Barb Cooper from helpmysquashgame.com, and I was reflecting this weekend on Nick Wallenda. And do you remember how we went across Niagara Falls in the dark with rain from the falls, wind on a little cable? And I'm thinking to myself, that guy was on a tightrope from the time he was 2. And he has become now so competent on that he can walk across Niagara Falls in the dark. And I thought it's worth mentioning to you how learning happens and how you, as a squash player, are going to go through stages in your learning. And the first one is, you are going to be what we would call unconsciously incompetent. What that actually means is, you don't even know what you don't know. So even if you think you're doing it right, you have no clue. The next stage, where you become consciously incompetent, is when you go to a squash pro and you go for a lesson, and the squash pro will say to you something like, "You're not holding the racket right." Now suddenly you realize that you have a technical problem, so you are conscious about it, but you still can't do it, so you're incompetent. Then you're going to go to another stage, where you are going to have to keep working at keeping the right grip. And that means you're now going to be consciously competent. So you're consciously thinking about getting the right grip, holding the right grip, maintaining it all the time you're playing. But in order to keep the right grip, you have to be paying attention to it. And the last stage of learning, and this is the one that you want to get to as a squash player or as doing anything in your life, whether it's business or fun or anything else, you want to become unconsciously competent. Unconsciously competent means when you get on your bike, you can ride it, you don't have to think about how you push down on the pedals. When you start typing, you know where the keys are. And when you start hitting a ball, you don't have to think about your grip now. It's become second nature, and you are now in a state where you can start to focus on other stuff that's going on in your game, because that part of your learning has actually got to the point where you are unconsciously competent. That's your thought, that's your training for this week, and I want you to just recognize those are the stages you're going to have to go through. I've got involved with teaching a lot of doubles lately, and there's one thing that I want to really share with you that is so similar in doubles and singles. And it's when you're hitting a ball under pressure. Most of the time when you hit a ball under pressure, you're trying not to make a mistake, which unfortunately is a ludicrous thought. I'm going to give you something completely different to think about. I want you to hit the ball higher than you think you should. So when you do that, and I'm actually saying aim for the ceiling practically, you're in with a chance when you hit a lob, either from the front of the court or the back, but you're under pressure, of it going over your opponent's head. If it doesn't go over your opponent's head, you are going to feed their ego big time. So in my world, actually you're better off hitting the ceiling than making them feel that good. So when you're under pressure from the back of the court or the front, whether you're in singles or doubles, think about it. Hit the ball higher than you think you should, and actually aim and hit the ceiling if you can. You'll probably never do it, but you'll for sure have a good chance of getting it over somebody's head. I found a fantastic book. It's by Julie Daniluk, and it's Meals That Heal Inflammation. Now, for anybody who has any sort of arthritis, any sort of pain, any sort of injuries where you know you've got inflammation in your joints and you're feeling sore, this is a must read. It is a fantastic resource. She makes it so simple and so obvious, and she gives you unbelievable recipes to do. So have a look at that. It's a really, really good book. It's one of the most useful books I've come across in terms of food in the last little while. I hope that helps anybody who's got sore knees. And trust me, I've got sore knees, so I know what it feels like. And now, Let's hear from Shelley Callaghan from CAAWS. CAAWS is the association, the Canadian Association for Advancement of Women in Sport. And Shelley and I had spent some time together. So here I am with Shelley Callaghan from CAAWS. Shelley, what a great weekend, and what have you been up to?
Well, Barb, what a weekend it has been, because we've been 2 days talking about nothing but getting women active, women of all ages, and we've been really, really excited that the Women 55 to 70 project that you and I have been a part of for quite some time is really starting to take off. And today we were working with women that are trying to get 9 to 18-year-old girls active. And so we really were talking about how it's going to be intergenerational and how women can really lead the way. And one thing that's been really exciting is the Portball initiatives that you've been doing, because women in this age group say, I don't want to mall walk. I don't want to do aquafit. I was sporty. I want to do sport. And unfortunately, society doesn't really see them that way. And so getting them involved in sport, like what you're doing, and even modifying it, because you know what? People have sore knees, and they have, sore arms, and they want to still participate. But sometimes it needs to be adapted and modified. So, I'm just really excited. Coming out of this weekend, I think there's going to be a lot of great programs going, and I'm going to be keeping my eye on what you and Sue are doing with Portball, because I think this is going to be just an amazing movement.
Thank you. I mean, we are excited too. I have to tell you, you are an inspiration to us. So we feel very responsible to make sure that this thing goes. But just explain what CAAWS, C-A-A-W-S,
right.
What does that actually stand for?
So CAAWS is the Canadian Association for the Advancement of Women and Sport and Physical Activity. It's an organization that's been around for about 30 years. Their focus initially was to look at kind of elite athletes and getting more women in the Olympics. And of course, we've done pretty well with that. We've been getting a few gold medals these years. But now our focus as well, we're still doing that, but we're also looking at getting the average woman really active, and girls, and looking at those vulnerable populations. So the young ones, teenage girls, tend to drop out, and women that are older tend to get ignored. And so that's really been our focus. And so we try to encourage women to participate and also lead in sport. And people like you that are one of the master trainers of our program are really where the rubber hits the road for us in the community, because you're the ones that are getting things going. And this weekend we had 30 of those women in the room that are really energized and looking forward to getting things done. So.
Well, it was thanks to you that those 30 people were in the room, and I can tell you, you've energized all of us, and honestly, we are going to go out there and just make a difference. So thanks very much. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you, and thanks for all the work you do too, Barb.
And now it's time for Ask Barb. And this question came in from Rebecca. And honestly, I had never even considered it. It was one of those ideas that I've always known about, I thought. She asked me, does a ball have a certain life? And does it matter if the ball gets shiny? And is there anything I can do about it? And yes, it does have a certain life. And yes, it does matter that it gets shiny. And yes, there is something you can do about it. So here's an old squash ball. It's got kind of white and shiny. It's picked up all the chemicals off the wall and every other piece of rubbish that's been around. So I've started to clean it, and you can see that it's starting to get darker again. And all I'm going to use is a Brillo pad. Just rub against it with a slightly wet Brillo pad, and you'll start to see that it comes up. Now, when I talk to people about what they do with their old squash balls to clean them up, my buddy Bruce says I throw them in a bag, I put them in the laundry, and they all come out good as new. Another friend of mine says I wipe them on the carpet. So literally he cleans it on the carpet before he goes on court. Definitely you need to have a black squash ball. If it's got all this white coating on it, it's going to skid and it's not going to play so well. So this is Barb Cooper from helpmysquashgame.com. Hope that helps you.